Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all keeping safe and well as usual. I've had a good week, a good productive week as usual, but this bank holiday weekend has been a bit strange, I must admit. My uncle passed away on Saturday, which isn't a huge deal for Mum and I because we never saw him really and we didn't know him that well. So it's not a huge deal for us, but we're hoping to be there for my aunt's funeral to support her depending on what the rules are. It kind of varies from place to place as to who they allow in, how many people, etc. So we'll see what happens. And then, of course, we've had all this mess with the government going on with the Dominic Cummings scandal, which I'm not going to get into. I don't get political, but it's fair to say the government have made a big pig's ear out of that and really mucked it up. So, yeah, it's been an odd weekend in that respect, but all the more reason to find things that are distracting and pleasant and fun, all that kind of stuff. So that's what these videos are about, as always. I'm just going to crack straight on with it. As always, there's a blog post to go with this, with all the details and links and things like that, much more than I can tell you about here. And there's no sponsorship or gifting or anything like that. So yeah, let's just crack straight on with it because there's quite a list of things to get through. So I'm going to rapid fire through these as quickly as I can, really. And I hope you enjoy it. So Thursday the 21st of May this week was Global Accessibility Awareness Day. So in honour of that, I wanted to share some things that have been posted online by or for visually impaired people. And it's interesting to watch, not only if you have sight loss, but even if you don't, it's useful to check them out just to get a sense of how blind people and visually impaired people use accessible products, assistive technology to help them lead their daily lives. So just to go through a quick list of some of these things. AbilityNet have been posting various webinars recently, and there's a schedule on their website, but they're also publishing the recordings on their YouTube channel in case you missed them. So recently they posted one about how disabled people can make the most out of their smart speakers, like your Amazon Echo, things like that. And they've also posted a video about how to look after your mental health during lockdown, as well as other things they've posted. So go and check out those webinars, those presentations. You may well find them very useful. The BBC's Click Technology show had a segment about accessibility in video calls, which is great. And then on their website, in the future section, they've posted an article looking at why coronavirus may end up making the world more accessible. So that's quite an interesting read. And then various bloggers that I know have been posting various things, of course, to do with this. So Abby from Bold Blind Beauty has had an interesting interview with audio describer and voiceover artist Roy Samuelson. My friend Emily from Fashionista posted a video about how visually impaired people can use technology. And then my mate Juan Alcazar from JC5 Productions has made a video about Apple's voiceover feature, which has made their products very, very accessible to blind and visually impaired people. And he's given a very interesting and extensive half-hour interview with the Sunu channel as well, which is worth a watch. And then Twitter have made an accessibility announcement this week as well, in that their alt text or image descriptions can now be up to 1,000 characters long, whereas it was previously 420. And also the animated GIFs that you can insert into your tweets now have some short alt text added within them as well. So if you haven't enabled image descriptions in Twitter, go into the settings and privacy section of the website or the app, go to accessibility, and then just enable the option to compose image descriptions. And then when you compose your tweet and you upload a picture, it will give you the option to add a description to it. It's really, really useful for visually impaired and blind people because otherwise they just haven't got a clue what you're posting. So it's vitally important to do that. It can help you attract a lot more followers that way, attract lots more customers if you're a business as well. So it's really, really important to do that. And then while we're talking about accessibility, it's worth highlighting some audio described theatre that you might want to check out as well. So I've been very happy to find out this week that the Royal Opera House are going to be audio describing two of their productions. Already, at the time of recording this, they've got Cinderella up there, or Cendrillon as they call it. There's an audio described version of that, although as I record this, they've left the video as unlisted. So unless you use the link that I give you or that you find on the Royal Opera House website or via Vocalize, you're not going to know it's there. So I hope they take the advice to Vocalize and myself and others and actually make it public, because you shouldn't hide accessibility. You should be proud that you're accessible and shout it from the rooftops. Let the world know that you are accessible. It's something to be very proud of. And then the cellist will be the next production the audio describe as well. And they are going to be looking at the audience figures to see how many people are interested. So please, if you want them to do that kind of thing, do check out their productions and do give them feedback on how useful it is, because it will be important to encourage them to keep this going. And thank you to Claire for mentioning the Royal Opera House's audio described streams to me, because I had no idea about them otherwise. So I hope the word spreads more and more. The Theatre Royal Stratford East are going to be streaming Reasons to be Cheerful, which is the Ian Dury musical I saw earlier in my time in London. That's a brilliant musical. I recommend you check it out. It's going to be captioned and audio described as well, and I will probably watch it again because I really enjoyed it. So go and check that out when it comes out on the 3rd of June. That's going to be up for a month. And then last week I mentioned the Old Vic, so just a quick reminder about that. They're going to be posting audio described versions of their shows as well. They've promised me on Twitter, so go and check out their channel and subscribe to that so you can be ready for when those shows start to stream in June. And then if you want to find out more about experiences at audio described theatre, obviously I've got posts on my blog as well, but there's a recent post by my good friend Juliet Parfitt on the Vocalise website all about her experience of seeing Fiddler on the Roof, and this was her first experience of using audio description, so it's really, really interesting to read her account of it, and I'm glad she enjoyed it so much. And then moving on to other visual impairment related things I've been watching, and there was a documentary on BBC4 called Climbing Blind about a blind man who wanted to be the first blind person to lead a climb up the Old Man of Hoy, which is this big sea stack off the coast of Orkney in Scotland. So not just a case of being led by someone up there, but actually leading the climb himself up this very challenging structure. So it was a very exciting documentary to watch, and he's a really nice guy. I won't tell you if he actually completed it or not, but it is well worth a watch. It's very good. And then I've mentioned it before, but my friend Dean Dunbar has posted what he thinks is the last video in his Lockdown Getaway series now, where he shares stories and footage of his various adrenaline-fueled adventures, because he's done many kind of extreme sports, tried out many different things. It's incredible what he's done. So go and check out his videos because there's a great variety of different adventures in there. And then bringing things down to a much calmer level, I wanted to give a shout out to a fellow visually impaired YouTuber called Bird Nerd Sophie. As the name suggests, she loves birds. She has 3 adorable parrots of her own, but she's also visually impaired as well and talks about her experiences. And she's very, very positive and very friendly, so they're lovely videos to watch, so go and check her out. And then another young blind lady I've discovered while editing this video, so I thought I'd slip her in while I have the opportunity, is Demi, who goes under the name of Della Grand. So she has blog posts and YouTube videos about losing her vision and beauty and fashion and daily life and stuff like that. So go and check her out as well. And then blind filmmaker James Rath, who many of you will already know because he's well known in the blind community, has started a new project called Blind Abroad, where he looks at disability and accessibility in other countries and other cultures. And he's posted a video about a trip he took to Istanbul earlier this year. And that was very, very good, very, very well filmed. Visually, it looks beautiful. And he tried out an interesting audio description app for the cinema that's similar to one I tried a few years ago. So yeah, go and watch that video and keep an eye on his channel because he's always producing great stuff. Of course, that's just a very small selection of what's out there by visually impaired and disabled people. There's a whole collection of playlists on my channel that I'll link to in the description below about disability, visual impairment, assistive technology, that kind of thing. And there are also extensive lists on my blog of visually impaired and disabled bloggers and YouTubers that you may want to look through to see who you want to follow next. So then moving on to museums, which I haven't mentioned during lockdown so far, but there have been a few interesting tours to watch recently, which I've been enjoying. And my favourite was the Pompeii tour at the British Museum. This was an exhibition from 2013 about Pompeii and Herculaneum, how people lived and how the cities were destroyed by the volcano, that kind of thing. So that was really, really interesting and comprehensive. The experts and curators were very engaging and interesting, and the whole 90 minutes just ticks along very, very nicely. It doesn't kind of get dry or boring or anything. It's very well edited and produced. And then the V&A have posted a series of 5 videos about their Kimono Kyoto to Catwalk exhibition, and they're absolutely beautiful. There's some stunning designs on those garments, so that's well worth a look, that series of videos as well. And then BBC4 have had an interesting series of half-hour programmes, just 4 programmes, looking at museums in quarantine, as they call it. So after the museums were closed to the public for lockdown, they were able to get in there and have a look around a few museums to kind of show us around a few of the exhibitions and collections and things. So you've got the Andy Warhol exhibition at the Tate Modern, the Young Rembrandt exhibition at the Ashmolean in Oxford, and then highlights from the collections at Tate Britain and the British Museum. And they're very interesting, all of those. The British Museum was my favourite because I have a particular fondness for that place anyway, and they're all audio described as well, which is fantastic. And then moving on to a movie I watched this week, and if you remember my video from last week, I mentioned that it was 20 years since I last went to America, and while I was there I got to climb to the top of the World Trade Center and see the stunning views. So one of my followers, Tina, recommended a film called The Walk to me, and I'm very glad she did. And it's about this French man who basically did a high wire walk between the Twin Towers. It's just incredible. I mean, the story is really interesting about how, he got his accomplices together and they snuck into the towers while they were still being constructed in 1974, this is, and managed to sneak all the equipment upstairs and do the walk. And visually, the film is stunning, especially when he's doing the stunt in the last half hour or so. It's just brilliant. I mean, if you're scared of heights, then you're going to struggle with it, but it is brilliant. It's very well made. I rented the movie on Amazon, and they also have a documentary on there called Man on Wire, which is all about the stunt itself, because it is a true story. And I did try watching a bit of that, but there's lots of subtitles to read for the French speakers, and I struggled to keep up with that, so I kind of gave up. But the movie gave me enough information anyway, even if they embellished or changed some of the details. It's still a very, very impressive story. So go and check out the film called The Walk from 2015 and or the documentary called Man on Wire if you want to find out more about it. There have been other documentaries he's been in as well. They're listed on his Wikipedia page. But yeah, I really enjoyed the film, so I can recommend that certainly. So now moving on to comedy next, and there are a few bits and pieces that have kept me entertained this week. The 7th episode of Who Said That was very, very good. That is a panel show that's really got into its stride as it's gone along. The big star this week was James Acaster. He was very funny as usual. And there are a few other comedians who I didn't know but were also good fun. It's great that they're getting lesser known comedians involved in these shows. It really helps to bring them to the fore, and yeah, they all have good fun with it. And then Nick Heath has done another of his comedy commentary videos called Will You Join Me Live? And this week it was a canine special, so if you like dogs, that's good fun to watch. And then I've also recently been introduced to an Australian comedian called Jim Dilakis. On Facebook, he's been posting various videos about the pandemic and does impressions and other bits and pieces. So he's a bit different and well worth a try. And then comedian Beck Hill, who I've seen at an Evening of Unnecessary Detail in the past, has posted a mock educational video called What is Water, which is fun. And then if you're familiar with the sitcom LOLO, then you'll appreciate the video of someone doing an impression of Officer Crabtree giving lockdown instructions. That's good fun as well. I mean, if you've never seen the sitcom, it might not make much sense about this policeman who is struggling to speak French, which is represented by him speaking English badly. But if you're a fan of LOLO, then I think you'll enjoy that. And then moving on to music, and as ever, there's been loads of stuff coming out online this week. So to give you a selection of the things that I've enjoyed and discovered this week, the YouTuber Shirley Serban that I mentioned last week has done a cover of the Carpenters song Close to You, which is good. And then this week I discovered a YouTuber called Samara Ginsberg who has done great cello versions of the themes from Knight Rider and Inspector Gadget and the Imperial March theme from Star Wars, and she basically films multiple copies of herself so she can play all the different parts, and they all go together very nicely, so they're very well made, those videos. So subscribe to her in case she posts any more. And then the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain have released a very surprising cover version of Hawkwind's Silver Machine, which is one of the last songs I'd expect them to do, but it's great, it actually sounds really good. And then the Untold Orchestra and the Northern Session Choir have done a cover of the Joy Division hit Love Will Tear Us Apart. And then LSWFF have done a great cover of You Are the Champions by Queen. This is their new version done for the NHS that was released recently. This is an all-star cover featuring big names like Paul Rodgers, so that's really, really good. And then various theatre stars have also been out in force performing various different songs from different shows. Some of these are for charity, and if you look in the descriptions of their videos and in my blog, you'll find out what they are. So various alumni from Hairspray, along with various other performers as well, have performed You Can't Stop the Beat. And then the wonderful child stars of Matilda the Musical, which I loved when I saw it a few years ago, have performed a great version of When I Grow Up. Andrew Lloyd Webber has got together with various Dorothys from the musical The Wizard of Oz because it's nearly its 10th anniversary, so they've performed a version of Over the Rainbow together. Then various West End stars have performed You Raise Me Up for the Alpha auction, which is supporting the Carers Trust, and if you donate more than £20 to that, then you've got a chance to win a family holiday for 4 to the USA. And then various West End stars and a choir of 28 recent graduates have performed a song called We're Unstoppable to raise money for 2 mental health charities, Mind and Pieta in Ireland, so they're well worth supporting as well. And then finally on the music front, it's worth mentioning the brand new single by Alice Cooper. Yes, he's still going at his age, and he's released a great single called Don't Give Up. It's all about dealing with lockdown, and he's got many people together as well. So the video shows him in a screen on a globe, and on the screens around him on that globe, and in screens scrolling across the background, people holding up the words to the songs. So he's brought a whole community feel to the video, which is great. And it's a good song. It's a really appropriate song for this current situation. And he's also done a great interview this week for AXS TV, which is really good because he's a really nice guy off stage and he's really chatty and engaging in that interview, so that's well worth a watch. Even if you're not a huge fan of Alice Cooper, I don't like all his music necessarily beyond his greatest hits, but he's really, really good as an interviewee, so it's well worth watching that. And then last, but by very no means least, I've mentioned him in previous weeks multiple times, so it's only fair to say congratulations to Tom Moore on his knighthood. He is now Captain Sir Thomas Moore, because the colonel title that he got was only honorary, so that doesn't really count here. It's Captain Sir Thomas Moore now, which is very well deserved. I mean, he's raised a huge amount of money for NHS Charities Together, which is brilliant. And he's now raising even more money as well. He's now set up his own Captain Tom Foundation, which is raising money to help combat loneliness, support hospices, and help those suffering from bereavement, which is fantastic. So even now he's still fundraising, even now he's still inspiring people. So congratulations, Captain Tom. You are amazing and an inspiration to us all, and we thank you for everything you've been doing for us. And yeah, that's it. I can't think of anything else to mention, but that was quite enough, I think, don't you? So until I see you again next week, please stay safe, stay well, take care. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so you know when my next video comes out. And I will see you for another video very soon. Bye.